I hosted a Scratch collaboration where 4 people worked together to make one game without communication. Here is how it went. Starting with Noob's 52 Scratch.
Okay, so my idea is to make a shooter game. There is a little catch, but first bye-bye, Scratch Cat. I'm gonna start making the player now. And of course, I gotta add a little shine. First, I will add some simple code to make the player point to the mouse. Now, I am gonna try make it to where the player isn't upside down when looking at it. Little did I know that this would take me 10 minutes. As I am struggling, I am going to explain to you my idea. The idea is simple. It's your standard shooter game, but the only way you can move is through recoil. When you fire your gun, you move in the opposite direction. It's a game about strategy. And finally, my code works. Now I'm going to model the gun. At least now it follows the player nicely. I am going to start making the floor now. It's a bit of an empty void right now. I'm going to make orange tiles. This will make the player easier to see. Now the game looks nice. I am going to add a hitbox to the player. I later changed my mind. I attempted to add a shadow using the pen tool, but it works now, and now it doesn't. This is because the layer the pen tool uses is the furthest back layer, which means the shadow will always be behind the floor. So I decided to add a shadow to the player sprite. This game is looking fire! I am going to add the movement now. Look at that! It's pretty much just how I wanted it. I am not going to go into the specifics on how I coded it, as it is a bit complex.
Yeah, that's not supposed to happen. You might be wondering why my AI voice changed. That's because the site was down and I needed to make this quick. At least now the code works. I'm now going to make it to where you can't go off the edge of the screen. And just like that, 1 hour. I think it's time to make the bullet. My art style is very simplified. Hopefully the other developers can copy it nicely. And just like that, I've got a working gun. I'm just going to play around with some variables. Oh, there goes the gun. I don't have a ton of time, so I am going to add some enemies. This took me time. Doesn't quite work. It took me so long to figure this out. At least now it works. Now I gotta make the enemies move. Finally, it works! I'm running low on time now, so I added health. And an animation for getting hit. Now it's time to get sound. The game is feeling quite empty. Yeah, maybe that was a bit loud. My game works. For some final touches, I am going to make the edges of the screen darker. For my last 3 minutes, I added the aim reticle. Now my turn has ended.
You're up, unit separator. I saw that there was smooth movement in the camera, but I couldn't move around, so I decided to change the code to make it move with player input. I was editing until I realized I somehow broke the project, lol. My laptop decided to die on me, but I continued anyway by removing the scroll X and scroll Y variables because they were genuinely useless for the project. I also added a new gunshot sound effect from Pixabay instead of the default hit sound. Here is what it sounds like. I just thought, maybe I should add music, so I added this track that sounded a bit low quality but got the job done. I also added player HP as a new feature. The only problem now is that the enemies are spawning a bit weirdly. After this, I couldn't think of anything else to do, because I took a break from Scratch a long time ago and I forgot a lot of things that gave my projects quality. This is the result. Hopefully someone can fix this. Moving on to you, Torget.
Okay. First, we need to make these enemies spawn properly. I just need to make sure that they only move once and then scroll with their set position. That's a bit better, but they still don't move, and they have to spawn at the edge of the screen. I made the precision icon white and made it using circles and lines instead of drawing it entirely by hand. I didn't like how it was harder to see from the edges of the screen, so I changed the opacity of the radial gradient to be less visible. I eventually added instructions for when a player sees the project for the first time. I quickly realized that I could get blasted off of the map if I get really close to the edge and change direction. I hope someone can fix this in the next version.
You're up, Jitten.
I'm opening the project, and first I'm just looking around, checking how things are set up. Alright, now I'm making this sprite a little better. Maybe the coding works, but the sprite needs tweaking. Okay, code time again. Adjusting because changing the costume sometimes messes with behavior. Last check, making sure everything feels like it belongs, not patched on. And now I'm cleaning up little details, adjusting sprites, then back to code.
This is the result.